Okay, so quick run through. By the way, how are you today? I know we abruptly ended last night, and I'm so sorry about that.
It's not you. It was me. The phone was plugged in. Blah, blah. I stood up for a second to move to another area so that I could unclick my camera, and it hung up. So, yesterday started really strong and ended crashed. I just crashed.
Yeah. Did you have a thing last night?
I did. Yes, I had a thing.
Did you get through that?
I did.
Oh, good.
So absolutely.
Because that's not just you and me, girl. That's with other people.
Had to pop me that good old Excedrin.
I understand. That would have been me too. I would have been like, hold on, I need a Motrin.
Okay. I have your balance roll on everywhere. It's like I'm holding on to it. I don't have it right now, but I can see it. It's right there. And so I did that and that. I did my tea, all of the things I could do to make it through. And still experiencing some things. And girl, yes, I'm fine.
Good.
Really, seriously, better than ever. Like, there's this thing going on, and I'm really, really, really experiencing it. And so that's up top. But the pain of being on my cycle is just really, girl, I was just yesterday, so over yesterday, okay?
Aww.
But there were thousands of people, like 2,400 people were affected by the power outage yesterday.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it is what it is. It just had to muddle through.
Yeah. Well, it's so hard because everybody's working from home. So a power outage nowadays is like, I'm going to slit my throat. I was on a conference call with so-and-so. I was on with whomever. And it's important now that we don't lose our connections, our virtual connections. And the power company needs to be on that. I don't know what kind of person veered into a power pole, but because that happens.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm glad it's over today.
I had the crock pot going.
Of course we did.
So I don't know about how other people dealt with it. Angela was very displeased. She had some posters printing when it happened.
Oh, man.
Yes. And so she was really messed up. And I ended up talking with her for a while. Taylor was traveling. She doesn't live in this area, but
okay.
She was on her way back, I was connected to other humans. I really just wasn't in the mood. Yeah. I wasn't in the mood to go with the flow. Okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And it's stuff like this where we think, how much dependency did I put on this? How much of it is the environment we live in, and how much of it is me making this important? I know for me, and it's stupid. It's nothing compared to yours, but it's what I got, and I had to check myself. Couple days ago, my daughter cleaned the living room, and when and it looked beautiful, and we were very pleased with that. And I sat down on the couch, and I asked my husband, "Hey, where's the remote?" Okay, girl, we lost the remote for like an afternoon. But that made me sit there and run through all the emotions. Like, what am I going to do now? Who the hell has the remote? Why does somebody have to be walking off with the remote when they know somebody wants to watch TV? And there's only one damn TV in our house. So this is it. And how are we not paying attention to this one thing? And then, because that's all in like 10 seconds, right?
And then
I sat there and I thought, seriously, this is where you're going to go with your family? Somebody just cleaned your living room. It's looking great. The remote doesn't matter. You don't have to watch TV. Hell, go to your office and turn on the same damn thing and watch your show if you want to. So, my other persona had to talk to me and straighten her out.
Jane, it's such a simple thing. And I got the chills because I'm like, isn't that just the thing? Whether it is physical or going through a change in life or really experiencing something that is a mental health journey, it's all a mental health journey or
Yeah.
a journey in thought processing.
Yeah.
And I just I think I got the chills because how much I appreciate your willingness to explore your thought process with me. And excuse my printer. I did not.
No,
That's from like 30 minutes ago.
Yeah.
But
It's still catching up from yesterday,
Yes. But my point is really and truly around the process of thought and how we are really being like cattle herded into disappointments or discontent and aggravation and frustration. And thank God for these practices, these techniques, for that persona that we have developed and nurtured, and having great friends who help us develop and nurture this persona that will come in and say, yo, soften, come on.
Slow your roll, girl.
Okay. Slow your roll.
Yeah.
And I keep getting the chills about it because there is so much going on in the world that we are moving slow enough to identify with. And what a great time to have our faculties, our wits about us, that we can practice the techniques when stuff is not that bad. So that when we get that real, true overwhelm, like losing someone to mental health, which I have in the last 2 months, to losing someone to COVID, which I have in the last couple of months, I should say, or having major upheaval in our bank accounts from personal, I'm going to call mine was a scam, but I've heard of other people who have just been surprised over their Christmas spending and doing a little research, finding out that they've just been getting hacked, just having people making spending decisions with their with their finances. And I laugh, but it's like can really set us over the edge.
Yeah.
And like pull down this depth of emotion that makes people like us just grateful beyond measure for the processes, the triggered response to soften, to love, to embrace the feeling. I cannot get over how joyous I am. It's a contentment, but it's bigger than contentment because I'm pretty new to asking my body how I feel.
Yeah.
And being able to sit with that. I've heard it and I had heard it, but I did not understand it after doing a practice for months. And suddenly it started to click. And that is why I can show up for our meetings. I can contribute in a way that I have, and really have hope too, that this is December.
Yeah.
This is December, and this is how December has felt a lot of times before. And yet I am pleased with me.
Yeah.
What a gift.
And that's really important. I mean, coming back to how do I sit with myself, right? And not just sitting in grief with myself. How do I sit just like, what I learned in lay counseling through my church was how do I sit with someone wherever they are and help them not just keep rolling over the same thoughts, but to challenge the thought, not to say, well, why are you feeling that way, but to say, how are we feeling that way? Or what does that mean when you say a word, you know, um, and really investigating the whole feeling, you know, not just feeling the feeling, but understanding what does the feeling mean? And am I making it something because I'm used to feeling the feeling now? Am I making it something more than it should be for the situation?
Amen.
Right? Because I think we've heard in our culture so much about, oh, feel the feeling. Well, this is where I check myself and my persona comes in and says, really? You know, and the other part of me is, oh, no, no, don't say what you were just thinking to that person because that thought has to be thought again. Like, you know, with my example of the remote control, the first person I want to blame was my husband because he doesn't pay attention to what he's doing, where he's putting stuff. And so because of that dynamic, the second I announced the remote couldn't be found, he went into overdrive looking for it all up in the house. Okay. Now, what I didn't need to do was add to that. He already heard the announcement and he already knew he had touched it at some point before the cleaning. And, and so, you know, he knew what he had to do. I didn't need to add to it, but I needed to tell me not to add to it. Right? I needed to get checked in with myself, not to exacerbate my stress and then include him in it because he was experiencing his own. And that goes to not only our practice of mindfulness, but also we pull in that emotional intelligence. Do I need to include someone in my misery? Right? Do I need to,
And
you know, yeah,
yeah, do I need to stay stuck? And
yeah,
why I'm vacillating here. I'm kind of circling the rim here. And is that where I really need to be, want to be in real life?
yeah,
And
yeah,
I'd also like to pay homage to good friends,
yeah,
counselors, coaches who help us consider new ways to process. Because
right.
someone like me, unbeknownst to me,
Mm,
has been stuck in the story of what happened and
mhm,
how it happened and how did I attract this into my life
mm,
and where am I, blah, blah, blah. I mean, really could spend an easy 10 to 45 minutes in thought about that. And what a treasure to have an entertainment instead of a stress or worry
mhm,
with better questions.
yeah.
Like, is that true? Is what
Mhm.
you're thinking true?
Is that true? Is such a good question. Woo! Yeah, that's my favorite question to myself. Is that
Yes.
true though?
Yes. And I can straight up argue myself. Yeah, absolutely, that's true. And I'm gonna tell you why. Hold on a minute. And really being able to, I mean, it also took some time. And I have to give some credit to neuro-linguistic programming, sound bath healing, binaural beats, allowing my days to be influenced by external healing techniques that
Yeah,
might help me, that one day I might be able to get out of my mind.
yeah. None of us
And
will ever. I don't think that we can ever escape ourselves because that's truly what is the hope, right? We can escape this prison of our minds. Um, but truly it is the playground in which we create. So do we really want to escape that crazy playground? Not really, you know. And so we learn to take things just like I don't know if you have like because I had little kids for it felt like years. Um, we would go to the zoo, right? And the zoo is this huge enclosed place. But there weren't always places we wanted to go. Like, okay, I did not want to go to the insect area,
yeah,
you know.
the snake exhibit.
Right,
That's
right.
exactly what I was
You
thinking of,
know, and
the snakes and
kind
insects.
of like the playground of our mind, right? There are places we don't want to go, or you want to make sure those cages are a little bit stronger for those kinds of feelings. Now, they exist and you know they exist, but you've built, you know, better enclosures for them. And it's to say, you don't visit them every now and again. You just know that the enclosures are strong for them. Because when they're all running amok, it's like Jurassic World, right? You don't want all that happening. And I think too many people don't understand. Like the very first time I started thinking about how do I work with the different areas of my mind because of the feelings that we're bringing up. And this was all brought about in the concept of boundaries, right? In the book Boundaries, he talks about fences.
Mm.
Either the fence is built well with a good lock and you can go in and out, or it's all falling apart and, everything's just running into each other. And you want to repair the fences. You
Mm.
want to build the gate. You want to choose when you go in and out of that location in your mind. Hypnotherapy helped me, lock things down. Now, as we learn these techniques, first we use it badly, right? I'm going to lock it away and try not to, visit that corner of my brain.
Yes.
But as you get better, you're okay visiting that, looking at that, seeing that you're safe from it in the observation, right? When I first had my son, he was completely fascinated with all these things. And, there'd be I could look at all the arachnids and things like that, but I would not go to where they're passing around the tarantula. No, thank you. Um, but my son was like, oh, gimme, gimme. And my husband had to deal with that. And I'm not going to say that I've ever touched a tarantula, but the idea has been easier for me as I've looked at the analogy of it's safe.
Mm.
I can touch it now because there's no problems with this. It's really how I mentally have prepared myself to look at that, touch that, interact with that issue in my life. And I always think about those things um, because of the book Boundaries. And I'm going to bring that up when we talk about it in our book discussion. But I think all of us want to lock away certain parts of our thought process, feelings, experience, but we can't.
Well, it's really interesting. It's quite beautiful too, the way you're explaining it, and very, very interesting to me about how some of us, starting with you in this conversation, are willing to embrace the things we have once had to lock down for survival.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. And especially when we become the observer, when we learn that we are psychologically safe and that
Yeah.
we can observe
Yeah.
what's going on in our mind without triggering some immense trauma,
Yeah.
then this new world does begin to open up. I mean, safety is a humongous aspect to bring into your personal intrapersonal relationship.
Yeah.
And that's what I've heard you explaining here and thinking like there is also this group of everybody, because you're like, well, I think everyone probably wants to lock down some part of their mind. Well, we are more and more becoming a group of folks who love talking about the process of embracing all the aspects.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite mentors, she's a YouTube LinkedIn mentor, okay, Cy Wakeman.
Yeah.
She was a psychologist and got pulled in to the HR world of nursing and medical health. And she started to research drama at work. How is drama at work affecting productivity, affecting absenteeism, and all of these other very specific aspects that could be pinpointed back to the drama in our minds of who did what and when they did it, how it messed me, the time that is wasted in behind closed doors with the boss, wasting time, draining energy. And as I started really listening to her and I be in the amen corner and holding conversations differently at work and with myself, I also realized too that we are driven to distraction. Oh, that's a book, by the way. That's a book that was very, very good for me. But for those of us who may have been diagnosed or have ever thought that we were ADD or ADHD adults,
Mm,
um, it's almost a safety net or a cop out to be driven to distraction. Oh,
mm,
it's this. Oh, it's that. And when we are able to see what is
yeah,
and what can be in our minds, it can be a wonderful topic of discussion. It can be a community building topic. And, you and I spend time talking about the processes of thought almost every time we meet.
yeah, yeah,
And so I want to pay homage to those of us who are embracing what it really can be like
yeah,
to explore
yeah.
the
Yeah, your whole
brain.
mind, your whole experience. For a long time, I would talk about whole person, you know, and what does that mean to me? That just means I'm talking to the person who has it together, the person who's a hot mess, the person who's emotional, the person who has to lock feelings away, the person who has trauma, the person who's now healed, all
All
versions of me.
embodied into
Yeah,
one human
yeah,
experience.
yeah,
Yes.
because that is more truthful, right? And again, you and I have now used the language of me too to me now.
Mm.
And that's why I'm so passionate about it because it includes all of you, right? And to exclude any part of you is not truthful, right? It's not truthful. And who do I need to be truthful to? Me,
Me.
me and only me, right? I don't need to come out with all my mess to everybody in the public. And I think that's what most people who have traumatized past fear the most. Like if
Mm.
I live a whole me life, I gotta wear my trauma on my sleeve and I gotta explain that this is why I'm the way I am. No, all those explanations were actually for you and you only,
Mm. That's deep.
right? You and you only, so that you could appear in the world, or not appear, navigate the world in a healed state.
Mm.
I reveal kind of my trauma, all that other stuff, if necessary, to give that me too feeling with someone who could be suffering and potentially apologizing for behavior that may seem like, really, get it together. And but I pull that part of me out, one, for empathy.
Mm.
So that person knows I empathize because why? I have been that person. However you're feeling right now, I have touched some of that. So you're not alone and you're not crazy. Two, for hope, so that that person knows you can go from here to there. You can go from, where you feel out of control right now in a hot mess to, feeling better settled, more content, more peaceful, right? Because it's not about an example of success. It's peace, man. I mean, it is inner peace.
Amen.
I mean, I don't care about success because success is too narrow a word to describe what we need from trauma.
I recently learned that high achievement is a trauma response. And that I felt, you talk about peace, that lifted such a weight off my shoulders and my own thought process to realize that success is so narrow, and comparing myself to past success or dreaming about what I can and will achieve with hard work is a total construct and a lie. The truth is in peace.
Yeah.
The truth is in peace. And for me, somatic experiencing or soma breath work
Mm,
has been that guide
mm,
where when you're really breathing on purpose and to a rhythm,
Mm,
you actually cannot think. You have to focus on breathing.
yeah.
And it has strengthened my core. You
Mm,
know, all these benefits. Strengthen my core, help me sleep, it helped me experience the pain of menopause or perimenopause. These are all subcategories of really truly experiencing peace in the moment and having better ability to process and to feel where I'm feeling.
yeah.
Girl, that is a mouthful. Really focusing on how important peace is
Mhm.
beats all.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I think too, if you don't accept the path to peace is through the valley of the shadow of death. Let me
Whew.
tell you,
Mm.
if you don't accept that, peace will never come to you. You know, you'll never attain it because you're trying to avoid the pain that you have to walk through first. I,
But what
I,
if you made it so long and did not? What if you're like me and you made it so long without exploring? You keep asking, why is this happening? How did this happen? And did not ever I don't know. I don't even know how
I
to
think,
explain it, but you put things into context in ways that I have only recently
mm,
even considered.
yeah,
And the world, the mainstream, gives us so many opportunities not to think this or
yeah,
that or the third,
yeah,
and to assume that these commitments will alleviate the pressure from our thought process. Gosh. And so what you're saying now too about how we ask ourselves or how we tread in the mind
hmm
are it's like a relief. It's like a relief to say, oh, really?
yeah,
Oh, me too.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think, I want to go back to something you said because I think we all say it. Why did I take so long? Right? What does so long mean? Like, what is this time that we put on ourselves for healing, for understanding, for illumination, for application, for um, sympathy, right? Grieving, right? All of us put so many time frames. Where did those come from? Again, it's something that could be ingrained, something that is systemic, something that's cultural. I mean, so many people now in the one aspect of grief, so many people now know that everybody grieves in a totally different time frame, right? And there's so many factors to how deeply you grieve, how whatever, right? So many people accept that. Yet when it comes to personal change, development, improvement, you know, um, we are like all in a hurry to make it happen. But we understand something very distinctly about grief, right? And that's just one thing. That's one feeling that can kind of tie back into other things. But isn't personal development all about grieving what you don't have and striving for what you do have? You know, acknowledging these things. Uh, there's a lot of grieving and healing, right? Grieving
Yes.
the behaviors that you've engaged in because you weren't a healed person, forgiving yourself for all of that pain you inflicted on other people, but more importantly, yourself. you know, there's so much we understand about grief, but we never apply it to the personal development journey. Um, and grief has been studied, but never, um, you know, incorporated into the idea of personal development. As I have
Wow.
looked at all different ways I've journeyed, grief is the number one thing I can really, really attach to. Because I've had to grieve the different versions of me that I now no longer hope to pull out and employ. you know, because those were not useful to me and brought up other traumas, right? But I also have to celebrate the fact that I had those versions in the time that they felt useful.
Mm. Yes.
That's just 100% acknowledgement that all parts of me were necessary,
Yes.
right? You know, at some point I was toying with the idea of, did I have certain dissociative responses, right? Where you have this out of body experience because of the way I was traumatized. For a long time, that was okay to kind of float out of my body, right? To get through it, just to get through it, whatever it was that you created that reaction for, coping mechanism. And
Coping.
I thought that was okay to do that. That was self-protective, you know,
Survival.
all psychological studies have shown dissociation happens because it is your last resort of survival in the moment because you can't flee, so you go somewhere here. And that was okay for me to realize that, right? It wasn't to say, oh, you're growing crazy, you're doing this thing, you're going to be Sybil, oh my God, you know, none of those things happened. It was simply a survival mechanism in the moment that I realized I had employed. Do we do that in small ways today? Yes.
Yes.
We daydream. We think, I wish I was over here when I'm over here, you know?
Or have a thought in our mind that's running so rampant, lose time on the road.
Yeah,
Look up and you're 5 exits on the down the freeway. How did I get here?
yeah,
Or having a conversation with a loved one and they're still talking and you have no idea what they've just said.
right. You're
These
you're
are
in your
just
head.
yes. Yes, at the grocery store, planning out your calendar. I mean,
Yeah,
just these
yeah.
are the
Going
little
on
ways.
autopilot.
Autopilot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's okay to have that. You know, it's okay to have that trauma response. If those of us who are using it, it wasn't a trauma response situation. And it's also okay to not use that anymore.
Anytime is a good time to take a deep cleansing breath in relief as a response to acknowledging I just was out of body.
Yeah, yeah,
Anytime. And I want to thank you again for breaking it down in a way. You know, I uh, have recently visited my past self and reflected on the strength it took to be dissociative
yeah,
in that moment. And especially as a young person or a young adult, when what else can you do? That was really strong. You talk about self preservation. So I thank you on one hand.
yeah,
And on the other hand, I want to be very mindful, purposefully, intentionally mindful that there is a me inside of me that is actually in charge.
yeah,
So I can be thankful and pull out that resource
mhm,
should it be needed without fear,
yeah,
as well as put it to rest
yeah,
because it's no longer needed.
yeah. And
And
yeah, and you know, I mean, a lot of circles of therapy talk about integration, right? We just talked about dissociation, but where I think I have found the most help is integration. You know, I think this is why I have a lot of acceptance of all the versions of me because I'm saying all of those parts of me were necessary. I don't need to keep them separate, you know, and integrate that into who I am. I am all these people together. And,
ooh,
and you know, now we're not pulling against each other. We're working together, you know, in severe dissociative states, people have literally the persona that's in charge, the persona that fights back, the persona that's hurt, right? Those are the main personas. And, but that's actually the human experience.
yes,
If we consciously integrate all those things, I am a woman who's hurt, a woman who fights back, a
amen.
woman who's in charge, right? You know, and that is okay to say I'm all those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as a female experience, we have been taught for a millennia, right, to be certain ways. And I think this is why this traumatizes women so much more intensely. Hold on a second. Sorry, I forgot to turn off the phone. It traumatizes us more intensely because we are told to be certain ways, and when we don't reach those standards, we implode.
Ooh,
We become our own judge and jury. We don't need the external judges anymore. We've
yes.
internalized those messages.
Retreat, react, implode.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Now, Jane, I have a question.
yeah,
How, because this is so intimate to me and it has got all of my spidey senses just tingling.
yeah.
How does this discussion relate to the women we desire to engage with, the community we're building?
They have this too. I think the what intrigued me about partnering with you, let's just get down to it. The fact that you were saying, I've not even looked at myself this way. And here you are, girl, all out here, according to your observation of me, it was, I'm all just out here being and being. And, you're like, wait a minute, I got to get this thing off and I got this persona that I'm working under. And these expectations of me, both myself and externally, you know, and feeling this comfort, kind of like, you know, come on in, girlfriend, this comfort of safety, of vulnerability, of truth. I think the women, the people we serve crave that
Mm,
because they're high achievers, because they want more for themselves, because they're stepping into this journey and not gaining traction. You know, um, Again, going back to how long do you want to suffer, right? Um, and I think people have suffered long because they don't get to this point.
amen.
And they have no one to get to go through this point with,
With.
right? We, with our certain levels of the journey, where you can say, girl, I'm just now getting to that. And here I am, like, you know, we appeal to that
Mm,
because we're breaking open the next, like we always said, the next level of this coaching thing, this personal development thing. We all know about those things, but we don't know what the next level is.
yes,
And it's not about therapy.
that's
What
right.
we're really doing, and that's why I love the word community, we're just sharing.
Yes.
You know, um, Sharing is important. I think we've lost that in our culture because of our individual experiences.
Mm,
Like our culture, our American culture values the individual versus
mm,
the collective. You and I come from cultures that are collective based, right? So the group think or the pressure from our affinity group, whether it be family or whoever we allow to pressure us to conform, to behave, to succeed. Um, for me, it's cultural, right? Um, it used to be that those influences would allow us to speak or not to speak. Now,
mhm,
most of us, this is the truth, most of us in those cultures or that culture were oppressed with the
mhm,
group, with the community, right? In healthy communities, they shared. I think about older women from like the 40s and 50s, where they would get together, whether it be um, whatever, but they're talking about their children.
mhm.
I think the classic quilting bee or things like that, where women
Yes.
sat around and shared their experience.
Yes.
And it was almost like a secret, or the modern version of that was book club.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, because all of a sudden you get to speak your truth around women who are safe or peers that are safe, interested in the same thing or same topic or same activity, and we get to speak our truth, whatever our
Yes.
truth is, right?
Yes. Shout out to Coffee and Conversation.
Ah,
Oh my goodness.
yeah,
What an
yeah,
incredible tribe of women who get together on purpose
mhm,
and just share.
yeah,
And
yeah,
okay, so I appreciate that because
yeah,
it really does put a nutshell around everything we've been exploring and planning and designing.
yeah,
And it makes me also want to know how this is the conversation that leads into what we've been planning for the new year in
mhm,
mindfulness, in
yeah,
mastermind groups, in our training approach.
yeah,
And we're two different businesses. We're both executive coaches with our own book of business
yeah,
and joining together specifically for this round
yeah,
of contribution and community building.
yeah.
How would you say this conversation this morning directly relates to what we're planning to provide as a team?
So I think individually, you and I provide the expected versions of executive coaching, um, life coaching, etc. It's as expected.
Mm,
I think together we really bring in that special sauce of, okay, I hear what you said, let's go deeper.
mm,
You know, um, I hear what you're going for, let's explore why.
mm,
It's a little bit deeper where we're going to say some much harder things. Now, we know coaching in general, you say hard things. This is hard on a different level.
yes.
Like, for example, in executive coaching, you take what is their goal and you say where they are and you devise steps to get there,
Mhm.
right? All very clinical and kind of detached. My brand of life coaching has always been, let's talk about your goal, because if we coach without a goal, you really won't know when you get there, right?
You'll
We
be lost.
talk
That's
about a
right.
goal. And let's take where you are. And while I want to give you some concrete steps, I know that if I don't break this down and look back a lot into why you've employed
Woo!
behaviors, because somebody does not pay another somebody to get me from here to there
That's right.
if they're not willing to do any work.
That's
Now,
right.
a lot of people quit on us because they realize, oh, wait a minute, I'm actually not willing to do the work in this moment, and I always tell people quitting is absolutely an option. Just know that whatever you wanted, you're just not going to get. Because while quitting is an option, achieving it by, achieving the goal, you quit on that too. You
Yes.
quit on the whole like future of this.
Yes.
So as long as we have that completely okay, and you're going to give up your dream, because you were talking about distraction earlier, and we are driven to distraction. I think the fact that I have been very safe in my relationship with my husband, both mentally, emotionally, and financially, let's just make sure that that's in there. He has given me the opportunity to hang out in this spot in my personal development
Mm,
for real.
mm.
For real,
Wow. That's beautiful.
right? I have
Wow.
had the first world luxury of being able to sit in myself, excavate things, and then make myself whole earth. Right? More whole. Um, but that's not a luxury everybody has.
Not I, said the cat. I
Yeah.
have absolutely been foot pedaling day by day, and years have passed.
Yeah.
And thank God for where we are now.
Yeah.
Yes.
And honestly, though, when I first started this, I was a single mom. When I first
Yes.
started this mental dedication to myself, I was a single mom. And the simple thought was, it can't always be like this. I cannot be this way for my forever. Just that simple commitment to myself that it's not going to be this way was enough to get the ball rolling. But I also needed some banner waivers. I mean, I needed some examples. I needed some training, some women to hold my hand, some books to show me the way and the how. And so I think what we introduce to our community is a, a deeper version of coaching. And I mean, I like it so much of self-integration.
Connecting with
Yeah,
self-integration and community integration, that your story can be part of my story, that
yeah,
I'm as interested in you
yeah,
for the reasons we are similar
yeah,
as I am in the ways that we are different.
yeah,
And really exploring why that's special, and how it is not just me too, not just me now, but really entertaining, really just super fun.
yeah,
And so I have another question for
yeah,
you,
yeah, yeah. It's
and
good.
that is about the guests. We've been talking about our guests and who we're interested in sharing with the world.
Yeah,
And when we do, it becomes such a lively discussion.
yeah,
I want to find out a little more about your perspective about how our selected guests,
yeah,
or prospective guests, people we want to invite,
yeah.
what is it about? I know for sure that these are people who are a demonstration of us,
Mhm.
and that is fun all
Yeah,
in and of itself.
yeah. I'm really looking. Oh, sorry, I cut you off.
That's okay, because if you get it, if you hear where I'm going with this, I'm ready to
Yeah.
explore.
I mean, I think we're stating our requirements. Number one, they acknowledge they have been on a journey.
Mhm.
They can articulate parts of that journey, and they see both the serious and the funny in that.
Mm.
I think if someone can integrate that, I've been on a journey. I can articulate where I've had an aha, a catalyst, a something, or my breaking point and what I did since, and realize it was hard and it was hysterical all at the same time. The
Yes,
ability to laugh at myself, I think has helped me move forward as much as the serious, weeping and crying and forgiving and grieving has done.
absolutely.
And the
Absolutely.
laughing comes way later, right? I mean, like,
In retrospect,
right.
yes.
Back to my remote story, I laughed at myself for a few minutes so I can get past the irritation, the very human response of, I wanted what I wanted. I'm not going to get it. Well, harumph and boo. And girl, are you kidding me? Get get on something else. Do something else. You're stupid. That's
Absolutely.
ridiculous. Stop
Come
being
on now.
ridiculous.
It's so true. And
Yeah,
you bring up something else I want to contribute about bringing other people into our vibe and what you and I get to share when we are teaming up.
yeah,
And that has to do with the coaching experience. The one-on-one coaching experience requires us to make it all about the person who's being coached. And
mhm,
that is a phenomenal relationship. We absolutely create a bond in that way. And yet, when you and I are teaming up, and in our podcast and in our the way we're going to train in the 2021,
mhm.
has so much to do with us sharing those aspects of ourselves,
Yeah,
really opening up about the process so
yeah,
that we are we're, like you said, sharing. We're gaining as much for ourselves as we are giving and contributing. Wow,
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, and that's why the word community is so much more important than coaching.
Hmm.
Coaching is wholly focused on the person being coached. That is a requirement of the coaching relationship. But community means I get to share, you get to share. You know, we both find value in the exchange.
Absolutely.
And and for you and I who are very experienced coaches, we can pull someone into the sharing. We can ask a poignant question to say, tell me a little bit more about that,
Absolutely.
or you just said this. What exactly do you
Did
mean
you
by
mean?
that? To bring illumination both to the conversation, but also to the person speaking the words, right? Because we may say that, and it's a device or a technique so that we can stop and hear ourselves for the
Process.
first time,
Hear it.
right? Yeah. And so, I mean, you and I are very skilled in coaching. That's easy.
Hmm.
What is more vulnerable is the sharing, right?
Absolutely.
And I think coaching as an industry has become almost too much like therapy, where you feel like you're just talking to a wall, a conduit for which you are to just dump it all out without real connection.
Mm,
That's what I'm really afraid the coaching industry has come to,
mm.
where it's tighter than therapy, and we also cannot prescribe. I mean, there's technical reasons why therapy is therapy and coaching is coaching, but I'm afraid that coaching has become so detached, right? That we lost the essence of why coaching was so different,
Mm.
right? And so now you and I get an opportunity to, because this movement toward community is not new, right? It's
No,
almost a circling back to something important. And more people, I mean, why the heck is MeetUp a thing? Because people are
that's
trying
right.
to find affinity groups, right? So us on purpose getting with people who are like us, who may or may not be having the level conversation we are having, yet still interested enough to be in it, right? Um, is my objective.
Mm,
Break down the I think the wall that is created during coaching that puts me, the coach, in a position of observer only, and puts you, the coachee, in somewhat of a lonely position to simply execute discussed ideas.
mm,
It's like it's so cold,
mm.
right?
Wow. Well,
Um,
I know that it does feel lonely. I have heard, especially since March, of 2020, I have heard the repetitive message over and over about how lonely, about, and the reason why many of my clients seek executive coaching is because just can't take it anymore. These thoughts of isolation and being against the world.
yeah,
So there is that. And I'm very honored to have an executive coach who is also my therapist so that I know where to draw the line and make that referral.
yeah,
And then it comes down to prescription. I mean, not a prescription of pills, but a prescription of
yeah, of
skills.
action, yeah,
And what you have been posting on Facebook and other social media platforms since we've been together has been so insightful in a way that says, I share these things regularly
mhm,
with individuals as exercises. I want you to keep a track and field diary of how much water you're drinking and if you're taking deep, full breaths, as we've practiced in our session today. And now I have a way to share prescription for inclusion of self or integration of ourselves, uh, really broad stream. And what that to me taps into making part of the coaching experience less individual and more community based, just sharing it right out there. And me coming from a mental health, I was raised by the wisest man in the whole wide world. My father's my favorite guy ever, who is also bipolar, schizophrenic, manic depressive. And so on one hand, I was taught how to battle the voices in my mind as a battle, though, not as an embrace. And on the other hand, I was taught very succinctly how to keep my mouth shut about
we don't
the
talk
mental
about
health
that.
journey. We do not talk about that.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's why I was eventually drawn into executive coaching. And at the same time, this Me Too experience where, wait a minute, in the human mind are archetypes. We are all crazy under the right condition, under the right experience. It depends. And that part of Me Too has just been incredibly welcoming for all types of people to be in my surrounding, and I feel safe. Yet it has also given me psychological comfort, emotional well-being, that these personalities up here all make up me. And the techniques that are required for my mental health are also wonderfully helpful to every human. Our bodies are designed to help us digest thoughts, feelings, and past experiences. Bam. Finally, I want to make a point about how I started off. Well, I started off in the streets, but as a young adult, becoming a mom, who is also, I also come from a spiritual background, a very religious background and spiritual. And in my professions, I started off in social services, right? And in talking to people in the prisons about HIV and AIDS through AmeriCorps, and then coming into the finance industry through real estate. And then when the market crashed, going into post-secondary education. In each level of my ability to stick and move in completely different industries, one consistent was never to share. In order to maintain, first of all, the motivational interviewing scenario. Secondly, the kind of authority that is required without you saying I'm the boss to people who are definitely considered to be manipulative. There was just a very well-defined culture, a ministry of sorts that you make other people share through these very crafty ways and techniques, and you keep everything about yourself private. So then that balanced out, that just only invested in the concept of secrecy from my childhood or my upbringing. And now to be able to share my story, to even explore my story, to go on a rant about where I've been and how Me Too might apply to others, or how people, especially in Sacramento, where I have a reputation, may have never fully known what my culture was, who my parents were. Even my sisters and I, who have very different complexions and very different body shapes from each other, have almost always ran in similar circles in business. But because through marriage, have different last names, we just, excluded the information about us being related so that we could move more freely without the thoughts of nepotism or whatever. And now it is time to reveal my story.
Yeah.
I am really excited about that.
Yeah.
And that is what wakes me up and brings me such joy about our podcast, about the opportunity to bring our skills and expertise to corporate America and individuals,
Yeah.
but with this community vibe in mind that I might get to share with some folks and then hear their stories in a more inclusive way.
Yeah.
And to partner with you,
Yeah.
to be a benefit to all of the life experiences you've had, and to be someone in the boat
Mhm.
to help row that thing you are contributing to, right? As we really enjoy the process of getting there. It's not just the arrival, but the journey.
Yeah, and I think too, the when I was training a lot of managers in, corporate trainings, they come from everywhere, right? They're not just a singular company most of the time. I really found value in a separate community from their workplace. Because I think what you are saying is 100% true. You in a position of power, you meaning y'all. Yeah. A person in a position of power does not want to reveal too much of the backstory. So that you have too much familiarity, right? Because familiarity breeds resentment. And at the same time, you don't want to have such a tight mask on. You have nobody you can tell these things to, because here's where how it's misused. When your work is everything and your work persona or your professional persona is the only persona that you have, you tend to you really tend to become toxic because you have no place to explore the real you. You tend to get angry. You tend to act out against your staff. Why? Because your personal and professional are colliding all the time. You're looking for personal relief through your professional persona. But if you have another community, which we have set ourselves up to be, who will allow you to be your personal self so you can be professionally better, where you get your personal needs met, you're having better integration with yourself. Forget your professional persona for a minute. Once you get that together and you're getting all your personal needs met, you can show up as a better professional. You can hold strong boundaries and still have, work friendships, right? When you are integrated and you have peace within yourself, you have dealt with those hard traumatic things, you can show up and be friendly and not feel like you're violating some hierarchy that you're put in.
Yes.
Right? And you
That's
can
a
get
thing.
productivity both from yourself and your staff because they know, like, and trust you. Because guess what? Know, like, and trust has to come here first. I have
Amen.
to know, like, and trust myself. If I don't know myself, I can't like myself and I don't trust myself.
Come on now.
So
given the right situation and all out of the blue.
yeah. Yeah. And yet most people don't have this. Most people don't have, like you have siblings, I don't. Most people aren't even sharing in their sibling group, which for me as an only child, I'm like, well, okay, I get it. Now that I have a spouse who has siblings, I see how that happens. And I'm still baffled by it. I'm like, what? You grew up with these people. They know everything about everything. And not every conversation is monitored by the parents. Y'all are adults. Talk like you need to talk to each other.
Not always possible because of those reasons.
The training.
That's right.
Because of the training. You have to go outside of the training to do something new. And I get that now. For years, I wish my husband would speak frankly. And he's like, no, can't do that. No, it's not allowed. Like, it's unacceptable. Wait, who set up these rules? Maybe I should say, Because they already think I'm the crazy one, but that's all right. But really what we're telling people as individuals, not your personas or your positions in the world. As individuals, we're giving you community to make yourself whole. Right? And that's what I needed. And that's why, you know, like my best friend, she was enough community for me to begin to integrate.
Amen.
Girl, she talked about all her crazy. Her crazy was crazier than mine. And yet she dealt with me like my crazy was the only crazy to be dealt with. Meaning she gave me safety through friendship. And she subordinated her crazy until it was too much. And then we had to switch roles. That's what friendship is. And most people that we will encounter through our created community, through our intentional community, will never have had that opportunity. So we need to be the ones who make it safe. You know, we need to be the ones who are kind of covering everybody with safety, with truth talk, with dig deeper. I know it hurts. It's okay. You're going to get through it. And that's why I think I say in most of our podcasts, if we've dealt with a strong issue, be kind to yourself. It's going to keep echoing for a while. I mean, for me, thoughts like this echoed for 2 decades before I had the opportunity to feel safe enough to deal with it.
Amen.
And then I had a major breakdown and I really dealt with it, you know. But again, it took me that long to get to what I considered safe for me, you know.
Wow. I appreciate you so much. And I